past few years have seen a revival of some truly awful stuff. Socialism, smallpox, the Roseanne Show. But on college campuses, one of the nation's most poisonous and discredited practices is making a comeback. Racial segregation has once again gained currency in our universities, which remain among the few places where such terrible ideas can be taken seriously. Just last week, the University of Wisconsin-Madison suspended a residence hall employee for allegedly telling students not to, quote, bring too many white students around, unquote. Students on campuses are protesting the suspension, saying the employee was simply providing a safe space for students of color. Earlier in November, students at Syracuse University occupied a campus building in response to an incident in which some racial graffiti was found. The students made several demands of university administrators, including the right of students to deny roommates based on their race. It would be one thing if it was just history-deficient students making these demands, but schools are often in on the plan to discriminate against students based on their color. In response to a group of police officer-involved shootings in 2016, Brown University hosted two, quote, community care conversations, unquote, one specifically for minority students and one for everyone else. Also in 2016, Cal Berkeley unveiled the, quote, person of color theme house, unquote, a residence billed as the best way to meet the needs of students of color and low-income students' needs. In April of that year, the University of Connecticut dedicated a wing of one of their dorms exclusively to black males. At NYU, students demanded that, quote, an entire floor of the mixed-use building in the Southern Superblock plan be entirely dedicated to students of color and another for queer students on campus, unquote. And in 2018, a pool party at Scripps College that was initially advertised as only open to people of color was desegregated and postponed after the event prompted national criticism and threats to the school. Of course, the examples go on and on and on, but the idea behind all this errant nonsense is simple. Students of color believe their universities are oppressing them, and they need room to be themselves. Minority students want to be safe and see their culture flourish unabated. Actually, this directly contradicts the rationale many have used for decades, arguing that more integration will breed more equity and understanding. This was the idea underpinning most of the contentious busing debates of the 1970s. But it seems like we've heard all that language about staying safe and protecting culture before.
Each race, within its own framework, has the freedom to teach, to instruct, to develop, to ask for and receive deserved help from others of separate racial stations. This is the great freedom of our American founding fathers. But if we amalgamate into the one unit, as advocated by the communist philosophers, then the enrichment of our lives, the freedom of our development, is gone forever. We become, therefore, a mongrel unit of one under a single all-powerful government, and we stand for everything and for nothing.
That, of course, is from George Wallace's 1963 inaugural speech in Alabama, which also included these lines.
I draw the line in the dust and toss the gauntlet before the feet of tyranny, and I say segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever.
So now students on the left have gone so far around to the other side, they've ended up in George Wallace territory. Wallace would have loved nothing more than for black and brown students to keep themselves away from whites. So maybe instead of universities giving students wokeness participation medals, they should teach them the history that we are now evidently condemned to repeat. If our colleges do nothing else, they should prevent students from advocating positions that would have David Duke popping champagne bottles.